Okay, so can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay. So those of you who are willing or interested to turn on your cameras, you can go ahead just to, just to recollect your faces if you can, if you want to, of course. Turn on your cameras. I'll just, say hi to you guys. So, hi, Raza. So should I call you Raza or Ayub?
My first name is actually Raza.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. So Raza then. Bittu, nice to see you. Okay. Yeah. So it's time to start, but we have only 11 people in the class. So let's maybe give people a couple more minutes, uh, then we can get started. Um, so any questions on how we are planning to take this forward? Any suggestions for making our online learning more useful? Anybody has any ideas to improve our online sessions?
Sir, is it possible for you to use a board, I mean, a green board or a whiteboard?
What is that? Is it possible to use a what?
Board, a whiteboard or something. Sir,
Ah,
I mean,
okay. So I've got a small device with me right now. I'll just show it to you. It's a kind of like a tablet, and I have a stylus. So if I write on this, it will appear on the screen. Okay. So I'll just show you. I'll just give you an example. Let's see. So this is just a test. Okay. Can you see?
yes, sir.
Right. So I'm going to be using this tool. So it will allow me to write. I can draw. I can make some figures, illustrations, and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be using this extensively for the entire semester. Okay. So that is definitely one thing that will help, right? Uh,
Sir,
it gives me much more control. I can draw figures and whatever it is that I want to do, I can. So that portion is, I guess we've taken care of that. Does this help?
yes, sir.
Yeah. So it will not be just the same as last time. See, the last time we didn't have time to do all this. We didn't have time to plan this out. It was all in a hurry, and everything was locked down anyway. So I couldn't buy anything I wanted, and so on. But this time, I'm a little bit better prepared. I mean, at least in terms of the content and how it will be delivered. And depending on, see, for now, it's still lockdown is kind of on and off. Only those who have to go to campus are allowed to go to campus. If there is a need for me to go to campus and then use the boards to do it, I might even do that later on in the semester. But at this point in time, even the campus building is people are advised not to come unless it's absolutely necessary. You may be aware that our director tested positive last week. I think it's been about 8 or 9 days since he tested positive. So the number of cases are kind of increasing. Faculty and staff, about 10 or 12 people have tested positive and so on. Right. So everybody is being very cautious right now. Okay. Yeah. Any other suggestions? Okay, so we have 15 people. All right. We'll get started. Okay, and then let others join in as they come. So yesterday, in the first class, I gave you a brief introduction to this course of what we will be doing and so on. And today I'm going to start off with a small exercise. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so yesterday, you remember we spoke about how water is a resource because it is spatially and temporally variable, uh, you know, across the world, right? So today I'm going to start off by showing you this figure, which is the map of rainfall received between June 2018 and May 2019, right? So this is from June 1st, 2018 to May 31st, 2019. Okay. And what you see over here, the different colors that are represented are the different uh, amounts of annual rainfall in the different parts of India, right? So the dark red color is rainfall between 0 to 600 mm, right? Which means about, well, 0 is the lower limit, but obviously everywhere receives at least a little bit of rainfall. But less than 600 millimeters of rainfall is this part of India, the northwestern part of India, covering parts of Gujarat and Rajasthan, which is expected, right? We all know already that Rajasthan is a desert; it doesn't receive much rainfall, so it's less than 600 mm of rainfall in that region. And the rest of India, you can see it's all distributed. These different colors correspond to these different ranges that you see. All right. So the portions which receive the most rainfall, it's not very unexpected. We already know this. You have the northeastern part of India, right? Meghalaya, Assam, and so on, which receive a significant amount of rainfall, maybe more than 3,000 millimeters per year. Of course, this is for a particular year. This is not the long-term average or something like that. This is a rainfall for a particular year. And then regions of, did anybody say something?
Sir,
Yeah.
why we measure in mm, sir?
Why is it in mm?
I mean, we measure in mm, no, sir. Why like that?
Okay, so your question is why we are measuring in mm. So see, typically we measure it in millimeters or centimeters, right? Because let us say you set up a device to measure the rainfall, right? These are called rain gauges. Okay, so basically the device that measures rainfall is called a rain gauge.
Will that give volume?
It doesn't give volume, right? So if you go and read the newspaper reports, right, this is something very interesting. So thank you for this question. It actually indirectly links to what we are going to talk about. If you see the reports, it will say in the last 24 hours, Mumbai received 20 centimeters of rain or 10 centimeters of rain and so on. Right? It will not say how much volume it received, right? Because volume is more difficult to compute. Right? Suppose just imagine this. Suppose I set up a rainfall gauge, a simple device. Just imagine this. I keep a graduated cylinder, okay, of uniform cross-sectional area, and it has, let us say, graduations. Oops. See, I have to be a little bit careful when I draw. Okay, imagine I have a graduated cylinder with, okay, let me just, yeah. Imagine I have a graduated cylinder. Something like that. Okay. So as the rainfall starts, the water starts to build up in this container, and naturally you will notice that, let us say you get 15 millimeters of rainfall. You'll say at this location in the last 24 hours we had 15 millimeters of rainfall, right? And the reason we measure in millimeters is that very often you don't get a lot of rainfall. It may look like a very heavy rainfall event, but if you look at the depth of water that's actually collected, it may be 5 mm, 6 mm, or 8 mm, 12 mm, and so on, right? So there's no good reason why we should not measure it in meters. Then you will say we received 0.005 meters of rainfall, but it doesn't make physical sense, right? So that's why we typically use millimeters or centimeters to refer to rainfall amounts. And this, remember, this is over the entire year. So what you're seeing over here is from June 1st, 2018 to May 31st, 2019. So over an entire year, you can see how rainfall is distributed over different parts of India. Okay. Is
Sir,
that okay? Yes.
sir, but it may happen that within a certain city also different parts may receive different amounts of rainfall. Then
Of course.
how do you generalize like what amount of rain for that particular city? Do we average it out?
We're going to learn about all of that in the coming weeks. Okay, in the coming lectures, in the coming weeks, we will talk about all of this, right? So as he said, Aditya, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So as Aditya is saying, within the city, right? So for example, if you go to Bombay city, they'll have different rainfall gauges measuring rainfall. There'll be one at Kolaba, there'll be one at the airport, there'll be one at Santa Cruz, there'll be one at whatever, different parts of Bombay, Mumbai. Okay, and then it will say the city recorded these many different values of rainfall at these different locations. On average, you can say the simplest way of doing it would be to take an arithmetic average, right? Just take all these different gauges which are within the city. One of them will record 8 millimeters, the other will record 12 millimeters, the other place may record 20 millimeters. You take the average and say you received about 14 millimeters of rainfall or whatever it is, right? That's one way of doing it. The other way would be to take, well, there are lots of different ways of doing it, okay? We'll talk about that a little bit later. I don't want to get into that now. Basically, there are many ways of averaging. You can take an area weighted average, you can take a simple arithmetic average, or you can take what is called a Thousand polygon approach, and so on. We'll talk about that a little bit later, okay? So we don't generalize. There are different ways of doing it, and different ways have different advantages, right? So if for example, I have 5 different locations within a city. So let us imagine this. So I have a city, let us say the city looks something like this, and I'm measuring rainfall at, oops. So you see, I have there's a little bit of a learning curve for me. Okay, so let us say I measure rainfall at these 5 different locations within the city. Okay, and these 5 different locations, I measure rainfalls of P1, P2, P3, P4, and P5. Okay, so if I'm interested in the average, I can very simply say P bar equal to, the simplest way would be, oops, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm still learning how to control this pen and this pointer. So bear with me a little bit. Okay, okay, let me write it in short form. Sigma Pi divided by N, where I goes from 1 to N. Right? That's the simplest way of averaging over that area. This area could be anything. This area could be, it could be a city, it could be a state, It could be a district, it could be a country, right? If you're looking at the entire world, for example, okay, if you're looking at the entire world, you won't say India receives a rainfall of, you know, so and so in Bombay, so and so in Calcutta, so and so in Delhi, so and so in. It's not that you will not define India's rainfall using 1,000 different numbers. You will say India, the whole of India receives these many millimeters of rain every year. How do you compute one number for the whole of India when you can clearly see here on this map that India has so much variability in rainfall? How do you compute that? You do something like this. This might not be the best approach. I'm just saying this is one example of doing it, right? This is one way of doing it. The other way would be to take the average, the area weighted average, right? So you say, I know the average rainfall in the state of Madhya Pradesh. I know the average rainfall in the state of Chhattisgarh. I know the average rainfall in the state of West Bengal, Orissa, and so on. You take all those rainfall amounts, multiply them by the respective areas of those states, right? So let me try writing that. Okay. So let us say I know the areas of the different states. Okay. So then I'm going to say, so the average rainfall for the entire country, for example, could be P bar equal to sigma Pi Ai divided by sigma Ai. Does that make sense? I equal to 1 to n. I equal to 1 to n. Right? Anybody has any questions? Does this make sense, what I'm saying? Okay, somebody has to speak up. Every now and then, one of you can just turn on your mic and say, yeah, I understood it, or I didn't understand it, or whatever it is.
Yes, sir, it makes sense.
Makes sense? All right. Yeah. And this, I'm not saying this is the only way of doing it. I've already shown you two ways of doing it. One is simply taking P1 plus P2 plus P3 divided by n, right? This one is probably a little bit better. I don't know. Depends on how variable P1, P2, P3 all are, right? So obviously, clearly you can see here, the whole, if you look at the entire state of Rajasthan, P for Rajasthan will be a small number, right? Whereas P for Kerala might be a large number because Kerala receives more than 3,000 millimeters of rain or 2,000 millimeters of rain annually. So then when I compute the average rainfall that the whole of India receives, I will take P of Rajasthan multiplied by area of Rajasthan, add it to P of Gujarat multiplied by area of Gujarat plus P of Madhya Pradesh and so on, right? And then divided by A1 plus A2 plus A3, which are all the different states in India. And from that, I can get the average rainfall that India receives, right? So that is one indication of how to compute the average rainfall. Now that average number may not represent any particular state. It is representing the whole of India. But if you want to better represent it, you will say India receives between 600 and 3,500 millimeters of rainfall every year. But the average is 1,200, for example. You can say that, right? So there are many ways of representing this. This is just, I'm just trying to tell you that, you can look at this in many different ways. This is just one representation. I'm just trying to tell you how this data is represented. So this is as far as rainfall is concerned. Now I'm going to show you one more map. This is a map of soil moisture on a given date, June 1st, 2018, all over India. What was the soil moisture in the different parts of the country? Okay. So now this different colors corresponds to the different values of soil moisture. Okay. So this is the soil moisture till 15 centimeters depth of the from the land surface, right? So the dark red color is between 0 to 5% of soil moisture. Now this data is obtained from satellite measurements. Okay, so you have satellites which go around the country, right? And they are able to measure they are able to estimate the soil moisture using some kind of sophisticated remote sensing techniques. Okay, I'm not very much aware of what the technique exactly is, but using they emit some light or some radiation, and then it's reflected back depending on the kind of vegetation, kind of land use, and so on. And using that reflected radiation, they are able to infer what the soil moisture must have been. Okay, so this is using remote sensing data. Okay, so now I'll just go back to the previous slide. Here, I have mentioned the duration between June 1st, 2018 and May 31st, 2019. Okay, do you think there is any particular reason why I chose the 365 days starting from June 1st of 2018 and ending on May 31st of 2019? Why didn't I say January 1st to December 31st? Why have I chosen June 1st, 2018 to May 31st, 2019? Okay, by the way, this June 1st to May 31st is called a water year. Okay, I want somebody to try to answer why we call this a water year. Yeah, go
Season
ahead.
changes starts there.
What
Season changes.
Okay, so what do you mean by season?
I mean, rainy season starts.
Rainy season starts in June. Okay, does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So what is this season called?
Monsoon.
Monsoon. Okay. So so this June corresponds to the beginning of the monsoon in India. Okay. So this monsoon is actually one of the words in the English dictionary that has been taken from India, right? So the Hindi word Mausam. So from the word Mausam is where this root for this word monsoon is. Okay. So monsoon comes from India. I mean, the word has Indian origin, right? Do you know any other words in the English language which have been derived from Indian languages? Yes, Raza.
Maharaja.
What is that?
Maharaja.
Maharaja. Okay. All right. I mean, maybe it's in the dictionary. I don't know. Anything else? Any other word?
Right. Pajamas.
What is that?
Pajamas.
Pajamas. Oh, okay. Sure. Hey, this is just you don't have to take it very seriously. This is just sometimes you learn something incidentally. There's lots of words. The word jungle comes from so now you have that famous book, right? Jungle Book and so on. But the word jungle itself comes from India. Similarly, I don't know if you've heard the word juggernaut. Have you heard of this word? Juggernaut. Now this is
Yes.
turning into an English
Yes, sir.
lesson. Yeah. Juggernaut is basically comes from Jagannath. Okay. The Juggernaut is basically something that is unstoppable. So in Puri, where you have the Puri Jagannath festival, you have the chariot that once it starts moving, it's unstoppable. So the word Juggernaut, Juggernaut, comes from the Indian word Jagannath. Okay, this is just some information. Okay, nothing to do with water resources, but yeah, I just thought I should. Yeah, so this word monsoon. How many monsoons does India have? Anybody knows that? How many monsoon seasons does India have? So right now we are in the middle of which monsoon? What is this monsoon called? Okay, I'll start calling out people now. Okay, Nischal.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, are you aware what this monsoon is called?
No, sir.
No? Okay. Let's see. Pujit, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Do you know what the name of this monsoon is? If you don't know, you can just say, I'm not aware of it. That's okay.
I'm not aware.
Okay. Anjana, any idea what this monsoon is called?
No, sir.
No? Okay. So looks like you guys don't read the newspaper.
We know the directions from where it comes.
Okay. Tell me that's what I meant by name. What is the direction?
From northeast.
This one, the one that we are in currently.
From
Okay.
Southwest.
So where does the monsoon hit India first?
uh,
Kerala.
Kerala. correct? So the monsoon comes in from here. Oops. Comes in. Oh, I'm sorry. So the monsoon comes in from here and then advances over the rest of India. Okay. So that's called the southwest monsoon. Okay. So this is the southwest monsoon. And then after, so this southwest monsoon starts in June. Oops. June, July. By July, it usually sets in over the entire country. Okay, and then you have the other monsoon, which is the northeast monsoon. Northeast monsoon, and this typically starts in October. October to December is the northeast monsoon. So these are the two major monsoons that India gets. One is the southwest monsoon, which arrives in Kerala around the last week of May or maybe the first week of June. Okay, and it advances through the whole of India. The southwest monsoon is the predominant monsoon season in India because it covers almost the whole of India between June and September. June, July, August, September. Those 4 months are the southwest monsoon. And then, of course, in different parts of India, it arrives at different times. In June, it arrives in Kerala, Karnataka, and so on. By June 15th, it reaches Maharashtra. And by July or so, it reaches the UP and Delhi and Haryana and so on. Okay, so that's the southwest monsoon. The northeast monsoon starts off around the first week of October and ends before December 15th. And this one typically affects the southern states. Okay, so it affects Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, of course, Orissa, West Bengal, and then even Bangladesh. And then, of course, northeastern states might also get a little bit of rainfall from the northeast monsoon. All right. Okay. So we will. I just wanted to, remind you of some of these things. And then, of course, we saw the soil moisture map. This is similar to our. So I just wanted to show you the soil moisture map. So I'm just trying to tell you that you have all of these the different sets of data indicating how these different parameters. You just saw that rainfall is spatially and temporally variable all over India. Similarly, soil moisture is also temporally and spatially variable all over India, right? So this is June 1st, which means the monsoon has not yet arrived in the northern part of India, right? That's why you see the moisture content is very low, like 0 to 5% or 5 to 10% moisture in the soil on June 1st. This is, of course, a particular date, 2018. Whereas already on June 1st, 2018, Kerala and Karnataka seem to have already got soil moisture more than 30%, which indicates that maybe the maybe the monsoon arrived in this particular year on time. Okay, so that's just to tell you about these different parameters, and then that is why we say that water is a resource, right? So depending on, yes, Chakradhar, yes, you have a question. Unmute yourself, please. You raised your hand.
Hello, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
What is temporarily varying? What does it mean?
Temporally means it's varying as a function of time. Okay, so when I said spatially varying, this you understand, right? Spatially varying means things are varying as a function of space. When I say temporally varying, they are also varying as a function of time. Okay. So while it is raining in the month of June in Kerala, it's not raining in Delhi. It's not raining in UP. It's not raining in Kashmir or whatever it is, right? So it is spatially variable and temporally variable. In the month of June, the kind of rain that the same place, let us say, pick a place in Kerala, maybe Trivandrum. Okay, the city of Trivandrum, it will receive some rainfall in the month of June. but maybe in the month of April, it's not receiving that rainfall. So it's at the same location, it varies in time. At the same time, it varies at different points in space, right? So that's, one way of understanding what spatially varying and temporally varying mean. All right. Okay. So now we are going to get into a little bit of, I want to try to understand, because it's a course to do with water resources. I want you guys to name a few rivers in the world. Okay. So right now I have 21 students in the class. Can we name 21 rivers in the world? Okay. So who wants to start? Whoever starts first gets to pick the easy, obvious ones.
Brahmaputra.
Okay. One second. One by one. So I'm going to start writing. Yeah. So somebody said Brahmaputra.
Godavari.
Okay. Brahmaputra.
Godavari.
Then
Ganga.
Ganga. Krishna.
Nile.
Yamuna.
Nile. One second. Nile, Yamuna, Amazon. What is that?
Narmada.
Okay. I hear. What is that? Hooghly.
Yellow River.
Mississippi.
Okay. Okay.
Sutlej.
Okay. I
Yellow
can't write
River.
this fast. Okay. Somebody said Yellow River.
Sutlej.
Sutlej. Okay. So let me write Sutlej first. Sutlej. Yellow River. Which country is the Yellow River in? Which country is the Yellow River in?
It's in China.
It's in China. Okay. Somebody said Hooghly. Hooghly is an extension of the Ganga, if you think about it.
Indus River.
Indus. Okay. More.
Missouri.
What is that?
Missouri.
Kaveri.
Okay. So I heard Missouri. I also heard Mississippi before. So let me write Mississippi.
Jhelum.
Okay. Missouri. Jhelum. Okay. Any more? Sindhu. Sindhu is Indus. What is that? One by one. Okay, anybody wants to add more?
Tapati.
Hey, one by one, yaar. Okay.
Tapati, sir.
Okay, I'm still not able to hear because multiple people are talking. Okay, 1 second. Purna Chandar, yeah, go ahead.
Tapati.
Tapti. Narmada Tapti. Okay. What is the speciality of Narmada Tapti?
Don't know, sir. Not an idea.
They go to
Okay.
Arabian Sea.
They both are what?
Arabian Sea.
They are two major rivers that drain into the Arabian Sea. Most of the other major rivers drain into the Bay of Bengal. Right? Okay, so we've got Brahmaputra, Godavari, Ganga, Krishna, Nile, Yamuna, Amazon, Narmada, Tapti, Yellow River, Sutlej, Indus, Kaveri, Mississippi, Missouri, Jhelum. Okay, more.
Thames.
One person.
So Nile is different, and what one river is the White Nile. It is different.
Blue Nile, I don't remember if there's a White Nile, but basically, at one point, these two colors, Blue Nile and White Nile, probably they join together and then they become the Nile.
Yeah, and
So
there is also one red river.
Red River, where is it?
It is in United States.
Okay, see, why don't we name rivers that everybody knows? There are still more rivers that everybody knows that we can still name.
Okay.
Thames. River Thames.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so can anybody else tell me where the Thames flows?
Britain.
London.
London, yeah. Somebody said, what is it, sir? Okay, so how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We've not even got 21. Come on. We have 21 people in it. Sati. Saraswati is a mythological river. Has anybody seen it? What is it?
Tungabhadra.
Tungabhadra. Okay.
Mahanadi.
Mahanadi. Oh, very good. Okay, so we are at 19. Two more. Forget about Indian rivers. Tell me something outside the country. Mississippi is gone. Amazon is gone. Nile is gone. Thames is gone.
Volga.
What is that?
Volga.
Volga. Hmm. Which country is it?
Russia.
Russia. Okay. Okay. What is the river in Paris? Okay, it's called the Seine. Siene. Siene. Seine. Of course, it's pronounced a little different than it's spelled, like French words. What about in Germany? Okay, so many people might not know Rhine and the Danube. These are European rivers. Okay, what about, so we've got rivers in South America, Amazon. We've got rivers in North America, Mississippi, Missouri. Okay, we've got rivers in Africa, Nile. All right, we've got rivers in Europe, Thames, Rhine, Seine, Danube. Okay, we've got rivers in India. Asia is taken care of. Australia, nobody said anything about Australia.
Murray.
Ah, good. What is the other river? The twin of Murray. Murray Darling. So these are two rivers in Australia, Murray and Darling. Okay. All right. So we managed to name about 20-25 rivers. Good. I'm happy. I'm happy that we got this far. See, I've done this. I do this every year. Okay. And with difficulty, we managed to find out all the rivers. I mean, we get to name these many rivers. Because somehow, although we all know it, we don't remember them when it comes to. Okay. So now, see, I want to name a few historically important rivers that we probably missed over here. Okay, so let me name a couple of them which are very important. Oh, we missed we've got Sutlej, Indus, and Jhelum. What about the other two of the Punjab? You know what Punjab means, right? Punjab means the
Bias.
land of the five
Bias.
rivers. Bias. So we've got Sutlej, which is one of the five. Indus is another of the five. Jhelum is another of the five. Then Ravi and Bias. Ravi,
Ravi and Bias.
Ravi and Bias are, see, these are historically important rivers, right? This is the reason why Punjab is called Punjab, right? Punjab is the land of the five rivers. So that's why Sutlej, Indus, Jhelum, Ravi, Bias. So you should know these things. Okay. And then something very interesting. Most rivers will have female names, right? Ganga, Yamuna, Godavari. Krishna, some people say, is also a female name. Okay. But there's one river which is already, I can see it over here, which has got a male name. You see it?
Ravi.
Brahmaputra.
Brahmaputra. See, it's not, we don't call it Ravi, we call it Ravi. So I don't know what it means. So anyway, Brahmaputra is, see, the name itself suggests that it is a male name, Brahmaputra, right? So why it's got the name Brahmaputra, I don't know. Okay. So anyway, so okay, what was I going to say? Historically important rivers. Okay. So here you see the Indus Valley civilization. Indus is represented over here. The Egyptian civilization is the Nile. Okay. Then the Chinese civilization. One of the rivers in the Chinese civilization is the Yellow River, which is, I think it's also called the Huanghe. Huang, Huanghe. Okay. There's other rivers in China. I think one of them is called the Yangtze Kiang and so on. Okay. What about Myanmar, Burma? Does anybody know a river in Myanmar? Very, very important river, massive river. Okay, culturally important. It's called the Irrawaddy. 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 Okay. What about the old civilizations? Tell me one of the oldest civilizations in the world. I've covered the Egyptian civilization. I've covered the Indian civilization. We've got the Chinese civilization. There's one more very old civilization. Which one is that?
Roman civilization.
What is that?
Roman
civilization. Okay. Do you know a river?
Persian.
What is that?
Greeks and Persians.
Okay. But what is the river? See, all of these civilizations started off along the river banks, right? There's another very old civilization, which is a part of the world right now which is under a lot of stress, which has been under a lot of stress for the last 2-3 decades. Lots of wars.
Mohenjo-daro.
What is that?
Mohenjo-daro, Harappa.
That's the Indus Valley civilization.
Yes.
That is the Indus Valley civilization.
That Mesopotamia.
Very good. Mesopotamia is one of the important civilizations of the world. Okay, so let me write over here. Mesopotamia. Okay, so what are the rivers of the Mesopotamian civilization? There are 2 rivers very famous.
Tigris.
Tigris is one. Tigris. See, this is all important stuff. Okay, so it's not that you learned this in your history and it has no connection to today. It is still relevant for us even today. Even today, right? I mean, who knows where you will be 10 years from now, right? Maybe you will be, you will be somewhere in the world, working on some international project, and maybe you'll have to work on in some part of Mesopotamia, which is modern day Iraq, Iran, Iraq, that part of the world. So Tigris is one river of the Mesopotamian civilization. What is the other river? I'll give a hint. Let's see if anybody can catch it.
Euphrates.
Yeah, Euphrates. 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 Right? So these are all the important rivers of the world, right? So it's not that these, I mean, I'm not saying knowing these names is something great. You can always go on Google and look it up. But it's important to realize that all of these have shaped human civilization. And without these rivers, human civilization is not possible. So in fact, if you go back and look at the history of how the different engineering streams developed, right? The reason, if you go back 200 years, there were only 2 engineering streams. One was called civil engineering, the other was called military engineering, right? So you have to even go back and look at why we are called civil engineers, right? Because the other engineering, which was to do with fighting and the army and so on, it was called military engineering, right? Civil engineering was to do with everything related to normal civilian human life, right? So the army people, they refer to normal people as civilians, right? So that is where the civil engineering comes from. Okay, why is it civil engineering? Because in civil engineering, we make arrangements for people to have water. We make arrangements for them to have, proper houses. We make arrangements for them to have, to be able to travel from one place to other. We make arrangements for sanitation, like sewage system and so on. So that's why we are civil engineers, right? Because it's a civilized way of living, right? If you don't have water, if you don't have houses, that's not civilization, right? So all of this is in that context. You need to have a well-rounded personality. There's no point in remembering Bernoulli's equation but not knowing what the different civilizations of the world are and how they developed and the historic angle of it. Okay, so that's where all of this comes in, right? So this is all important stuff. Okay, so all right, so now we are going to move on to the hydrologic cycle, right? Yesterday, you remember we spoke about the hydrologic cycle. This is something that you might have encountered in your earlier, maybe in your school and so on. You must have learned about the hydrologic cycle. So right now what we are going to do is we are going to represent the different components of the hydrologic cycle. Okay, so let's just try to, so I'm going to draw a cross section. Okay, so let us say I have on one side the ocean, OCEAN. So this is my ocean. Okay, and so this is the land surface. The black line that I've drawn, this represents the land surface. Okay, so let us say I have maybe trees over here. Maybe I have a river or a lake. Oops, sorry. Yeah, so it will take me a little bit of time to get all this, to use this with control. Okay, so let's say I have a lake over here. It could be a lake or it could be a river or whatever. Okay, so I have, okay. So now we are going to represent the different components of the hydrologic cycle. We will begin with the ocean. Okay. So we are going to begin with the ocean and say that water is lost from the ocean through, what is this process? So I'm going to evaporation. All right, good. So I have, let's say, the sun shining. You're able to see the entire screen, right? Okay, so here I have evaporation. Okay, so this is the, traditionally we begin our the hydrologic cycle from evaporation. It's a cycle, we can begin wherever we want, but we are going to begin with evaporation, right? So water in the ocean evaporates and condenses and forms clouds. Okay, so I have clouds. Okay, so here already from evaporation to to the formation of clouds, I have one more process, condensation. Right? What is condensation? Where it goes from the vapor state back to the liquid state. Right? So in evaporation, I have water in the liquid state in the ocean getting converted to the gaseous state. So that's evaporation. And then once it reaches a certain altitude, it cools down, and then that water vapor gets converted into liquid state, and that process we call it condensation, and then it forms clouds and so on. Okay, so once it forms clouds, then you have, what do you have? You have, what is that?
Sir, clouds.
Yes.
Sir, clouds. Sir, there are black clouds and white clouds, no, sir?
Yeah.
So white clouds never bring rain, I think so.
Yeah.
So why white clouds aren't bringing rain and why black clouds make rain? I don't know. Can you explain?
Okay. So now here's the thing. I don't know anything about white clouds. Let me talk about the black clouds. My feeling is that the reason they are black is because they're filled with water, right? And then maybe the sunlight is reflecting off them in a different way. I don't know what it is, or the sunlight gets absorbed. Hello, you guys are able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, sorry. So the reason they are black has probably something to do with the fact that light is getting reflected differently, or light is getting absorbed, so therefore it looks dark. Now maybe the water inside the cloud has a role in absorbing that light. I have not thought about it. This is my, I'm just explaining it off the top of my head. So the reason they appear black is because probably the light is getting absorbed by that, therefore it appears to be dark. Is that okay?
Sir, can clouds without water, can clouds exist? Of course they do, no?
They, for the best of my knowledge, they do, but I have not wondered what is inside those clouds. Honestly, I have never thought about it. It's a good question. Okay, yeah. So these clouds, they are formed and then they result in what is called precipitation. Now, there's a reason why I choose to use the word precipitation. Sorry, precipitation. Okay. Now, this precipitation can be either rain or snow or any other form of right. So if you go to the sometimes you have hail. You know what hail is? Sometimes you get like balls of ice that fall from the sky, right? It happens sometimes in the summer. That's called hail. There's other kinds of rainfall. Typically in India, we don't get to see other kinds of rainfall. We only see rain most of the time. Sometimes, very rarely, we see hail. Hail is basically those hard balls of ice fall out of the sky, right? You must have you might have seen that or heard about it or whatever. There's also other kinds of precipitation.
Sir, why hail happens?
Yeah, I think it has something to do with thunderstorms and so on. Right? Thunderstorms is when you have, very extreme heat, which creates some kind of a low pressure area, and then the water rushes in to normalize that. So that can create this kind of hail, and that typically happens in the summer months. It doesn't happen in the during the monsoon. You don't get hail. You get it in the summer months. Okay. So there's yes.
I know lightning, but I don't know what is thunderstorm, sir.
Thunderstorm is see, sometimes in the summer you have a very, very hot day, and then in the evening you will get a sudden burst of rain. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, in Tirupati often, sir.
Tirupati happens often. That is because the land surface gets very, very hot. Okay, land surface becomes very, very hot, and then the hot air rises to the top. Right, hot air rises to the top, and that causes a low pressure in that area. So the air from the surrounding areas, which has to be at a higher pressure, because there's a lower pressure which creates a vacuum over here, that high pressure comes in to normalize the low pressure. And when that moisture laden air from the surrounding areas comes in, it creates what is called a thunderstorm. Okay, and it's accompanied by lightning. Lightning is just a side effect, right? So thunder and lightning are a side effect of clouds colliding and so on. Okay, anyway, let me keep going. So precipitation, there are different forms of precipitation. We'll not get into that. Predominantly in India, it's rain. Maybe in some parts of Jammu and Kashmir, you may get snow. And then there's other forms, hail, sleet, and so on. We'll not talk about that much. We are predominantly interested in rain. So this water starts coming down from the sky in the form of rain. Okay, so let us say I have a tree over here. Okay, so will all of this rain, will it hit the land surface? Will all this rain, will it hit the land surface?
Is it possible that some of it evaporates
Land
in midair?
or ocean surface?
No, let us assume that is happening over the land. Okay, so Chakradhar, just assume it's happening over land. Okay, it can also rain over the ocean. If it rains over the ocean, it goes into the ocean, no problem. If it rains over land, will all that water hit the land surface? So I think somebody was speaking. Who was it? Aditya?
No, sir, it was me, sir.
Raza, yeah, tell me. So does all that water hit the land surface?
Isn't it possible that some of the water evaporates in between while falling?
While falling, it evaporates. That's not usually doesn't happen, because when it is raining, the humidity is very high, right?
Yeah, right.
When humidity is very high, evaporation cannot happen so efficiently. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'm more interested in, I've drawn these trees deliberately. Okay.
Sir, because some of the water remains as moisture.
Where does it remain?
In between, in the path from top of cloud to ground.
On trees.
Okay, so we'll talk about moisture a little bit later. Okay, so that is part of atmospheric water. So we are going to talk about what happens to this rain as it falls on the ground. Some of it gets trapped by the trees, right? Suppose there's a light rainfall event. If it starts raining, and suppose you don't have an umbrella, what do? You go and stand under a tree, right? And you don't get wet, because most of that water, if it's a light rainfall event, if it's a very heavy rainfall event, you will get wet. But if it's a very slight drizzle and it looks like it will stop in 2 or 3 minutes, you just go and stand under a tree, you will not get wet, right? Because the leaves of the tree will capture all of that rainfall. Okay, so that process is called interception. Interception means stopping it in the way, right? Suppose the water is falling from the sky. Before it reaches the ground, some of it gets intercepted by the leaves on the trees. Okay, so that is one process in the hydrologic cycle. This is very important. Okay, we'll talk about this. Okay, I think we are out of time. So we have come from evaporation, condensation, precipitation up to interception. I'll just quickly tell you what are all the other processes. We'll talk about them in detail in the next class. Okay, so just look at the different components: evaporation, precipitation, transpiration. Okay, that's another process. Interception. We'll talk about all of this in the next class. Okay, depression storage. We'll talk about that as well. Overland flow, surface runoff, infiltration / percolation / groundwater recharge, groundwater flow, base flow, and so on. Okay, so these are all the different components of the hydrologic cycle. We will talk about them a little bit in the next class, but to give you a brief idea, we've come up to this point where we are right now at interception. Okay, and I've told you that interception basically happens on top of the trees, on top of the leaves that are on the trees, right? So some of the water gets captured by these by the leaves on the tree. It doesn't hit the land surface. Okay, so that's as far as we've gotten today. We will continue from here in the next class. All right. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. So we will meet on what is it? Thursday at 10 o'clock. Thank you. Bye. Stay safe, guys.